Hello, welcome to Full Record Jacket. Thanks for tuning in and watching us on YouTube. If you do like this, I mean, we're not expecting you to get to the end, but if you do, and you want to give it a like, and you'd like to subscribe to us or share us, we'd really love that. I'm Phil. That's
and
Ben.
I'm Ben. And also, Phil, if they get to the end, there could be like a little bonus feature. I get to dance naked or something. Or if they watch to the end, I won't dance naked. Could be a bonus.
Could be. Well, tonight, Ben.
Oh, I'm hating this already.
This is right up your street because we're doing the first album showdown we've ever tried to do. And I thought we'd pit a 90s classic, a widely regarded 90s classic debut album by a defining band of that decade.
I know what's coming.
Against an album by the same band that came out just a couple of, 3 years later.
3 years.
So I'm talking about, of course, the debut album by Oasis, Definitely Maybe, from 1994. And then from 1997, fresh from meeting Tony Blair in Downing Street, the band released Be Here Now.
Released on a Thursday as well.
And some of us were there then.
We were.
I can remember it.
I remember waiting with great anticipation. And when I did get it, I did think it was long, but it didn't stop me listening to it over and over and over again.
So the question is, which of these albums will win this shootout? It's quite simple. All we have to do, we just go down the track list in order. We put the tracks, track one, then track two, and we put the first track against each other, and then the same with the second. And we have to come to an agreement as to which of these tracks wins the face-off between the two, or we may have to agree a draw. And at the end, we'll just add up which album has won the most of those face-offs, and we'll see what the score is between those two albums. Now, before we start this, I have to say the received wisdom is that Definitely Maybe should wipe the floor with Be Here Now, because Definitely Maybe often appears on these greatest albums of the 90s list. In fact, sometimes the greatest albums of all time lists, and is considered to be obviously a very influential album for its time, inspired lots of bands to get going, etc., and really made that kind of alternative stroke indie guitar music, whatever you want to call it, in the mainstream. And Oasis were obviously made the phenomenon of Oasis. And obviously the album that came in between these two was the massive selling What's the Story, Morning Glory. And after that huge success, it was kind of time for Oasis to be given a bit of a critical
I do like that album.
Now, this album did actually get quite a lot of good reviews when it came out. It then also got a bit of a kicking, didn't it? And it became a kind of fashionable to criticise it. And Noel Gallagher himself has made comments about this, I think, which have helped to fuel that fire.
Yeah, and he did try, and I think he was going to remaster them and break them down a little bit. And I think he did. Do you know what I mean? And then just went, do you know what? It is what it is.
He did a revised version of that. Was it 2016? There's a revised version of
something like 2016, 17. Yeah, and to be fair, it is overblown. They do go a little bit Bon Jovi on one track, but it's not a bad album. I may be seeing that through Oasis tinted glasses, but it's not a bad album. It's not, do you know what? It's better than a lot of albums that came out at that time.
Well, we'll find out when the shootout begins. So let's go with
warming up.
Track one. Okay.
Oh, I hate this already.
Rock and Roll Star versus Do You Know What I Mean?
Well,
which
I think
are you picking?
It's more harder. More harder? Is that more difficult than it appears? Because do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Means absolutely nothing. A lot of it. I mean, it's got more Beatles and I think it's got some Bob Dylan references in there. But it is a stomper. It's a huge track. But to come out on your debut album and your first track is, Tonight I'm a Rock and Roll Star, that kind of set sets the benchmark for what's to come. And for that reason, it do you know what I mean? It goes out the bucket.
I think you also have, yes, as you say, as a statement of intent, Rock and Roll Star is amazing. I mean, imagine if Do You Know What I Mean had been the first track on their first album, would it have worked the same way? It would be
nice to know what Do You Know What I Mean would have sounded a little bit rawer. I'm rubbish with words, Phil, today. But that more sort of stripped back, that more punkier sort of Definitely Maybe vibe. But I think for the time, I mean, we were in a time we'd come out of economic decline for years. We'd been under conservative rule for, 17 years? And I think to come out of that, I think Be Here Now was it was sort of people releasing the belts, wasn't it? It was sort of people going, oh, do you know what? Let's have it. Let's have a little bit of excess. We've had years and years of, I not want to go too political on this, but I think bands like Oasis, and Noel Gallagher often says he wouldn't be, he didn't start the movement, but he'd certainly be at the front of the parade, as it were. I think it changed, especially with people of my age, the political landscape. I think it made you realise that you didn't have to sit and accept what was there, and there was something better, and you could be from a council estate and do it.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was much to do with party politics. I think it was more to do with the fact that Oasis had been very successful, and so-called Britpop had been hyped up, and there was this whole thing around Cool Britannia. And Tony Blair sort of liked that because he liked to associate himself with anything cool, which is why the pop stars and all the celebrities got invited to Downing Street. And I suppose it was an era. Oasis had this success, and so they became excessive and took too many substances and started to think they could make songs that went on for 8 minutes. And I mean that's
72 guitar layers.
That's how I see it. Now, my view of Do You Know What I Mean is I do actually quite enjoy it, and it is kind of epic.
It is good,
but I do have to take it. I do take it slightly with I know that they were going over the top, but it is quite enjoyable.
I mean, the video with the helicopters, and you get the rumble of the helicopter. I mean, that's a great start for an album. That sound of the helicopter choppers coming over, I think you just you sit there thinking, oh god, what's going on here? But
having said all that, in the interests of which is the best opening track, I'm going to have to give it as well to Definitely Maybe.
Yeah. So we're fine on that one then. We're good with that one. So that's Definitely Maybe is still track at number 1. What's number 2, Phil?
Number 2 on Definitely Maybe, it's Shaker Maker versus My Big Mouth.
Ooh, My Big Mouth, you can fly your plane.
Do you want me to give you my verdict first? It's my turn to give the first verdict.
Yeah, go on then.
Shaker Maker, I remember it coming out. It was such a single. I don't dislike Shaker Maker, but to be honest with you, I don't think it's one of the best tracks on Definitely Maybe, for me.
I was surprised it was a single.
And I also think that My Big Mouth, I do actually enjoy that, perhaps more than many of the songs on Be Here Now, and I do think it's a great rock song.
Yeah. And I do like the sort of the pinpointers of Shaker Maker, like Mr. Shifter, and Mr. Soft, and the kind of, was it the New Seekers? I don't know if I can say this, but allegedly borrowed from.
Yeah.
I like to teach the world to sing. But I do like the fact that it's stolen bits.
I would rather listen to and have listened to My Big Mouth more and enjoyed it more. So I'm going with My Big Mouth for this.
I will. It is very difficult because I like Shaker Maker for what it is. but I will go with My Big Mouth because that's another raucous, and it's quite punky if I remember rightly. My Big Mouth.
A victory there. Okay, so
Be Here Now.
It's 1-1, basically.
1-1.
Okay, so track 3, Live Forever versus Magic Pie.
Well, when I first heard Magic Pie, I was like, what is this? Just, because I think it was around the time of the Beatles anthology, and Paul McCartney, I think, had just released Flaming Pie. And to me, it just sounded like Noel's just been listening to the Beatles anthology and stolen the fact that, man on a flaming pie came down and said, "You'll be Beatles with an A." And, but isn't it supposed to be about Tony Blair anyway, that song, if I remember rightly?
I mean, it doesn't make...
I'm sure Magic Pie is about Tony Blair, or allegedly about Tony Blair. It's one of those songs that has got better as time has gone on, but it's not Live Forever.
No. I mean, it's the only track on Be Here Now that has a Noel Gallagher lead vocal. I have read people saying that they think the live version is better than the studio version, and it works really well as a live performance. I don't dislike it. It is one of those that's a little bit Marmite for Oasis fans. So there's a contingent who don't like it, aren't there? I believe.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I wasn't a massive fan when I first heard it, but it's not Live Forever.
No, and there we go. And I would also have to agree that Live Forever. I remember the first time I heard it.
Yeah, it's iconic from the two. I think it had 2 videos filmed for it. One for American audiences and. One for British, where the American one, I think Liam's bolted to a chair. Well, the chair is bolted to a wall about 10 foot up on an old wooden chair. The English version, I believe, was at the end where they buried Tony McCarroll. And also the front cover's got Aunt Mimi's house on it on the single. So there's a lot of and. Watching them play it live at Wembley was brilliant in 2000. So there's no question here, is there, Phil? It's Live Forever.
We can go straight to number 4.
Go on.
So Up in the Sky from Definitely Maybe, Up in the Sky goes up against Stand By Me.
Well, you go first. This is your...
I do like the whole sound of the Definitely Maybe album and that sort of style. So for me, it's a great blast all the way through. And Up in the Sky is part of that. And it may not be the standout track on the album, but it's still a solid track that sums up, what that album's about. That's very much in the style of the album. But I wouldn't put it at the absolute top notch of Oasis songs. It's not as great as Live Forever, for example.
No.
But Stand By Me, of course, it is a very good hit song. It's one of those songs that has been a huge hit. It's been used in an advert recently, hasn't it, I believe?
Is it the Halifax?
Something like some kind of bank or...
Banking, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Got a good video, Stand By Me.
And it is a good one, although, see, it's not...
And there's not many songs that start off about throwing your Sunday lunch up.
No, it's good, but then it isn't my absolute favourite Oasis ballad, it's a ballad, mid-tempo sort of... towards a ballad type song, sing-along type song. It's not my very favourite. It's good.
I like the simplicity of Up in the Sky.
See, I think ultimately I'm going to say that although objectively it's possible to argue that Stand By Me is a better achievement in songwriting, I think I would probably prefer to rock out to Up in the Sky. So I'm giving this to Up in the Sky.
Oh yeah, this is a difficult one because Stand By Me is great. The only thing I will say is Stand By Me possibly goes on this could be said about most of the tracks on Be Here Now, but possibly goes on a little bit too long for me. Up in the Sky, it knows what it is. It's got some great drumming on it, great vocal. Oh, this is hard. I'm very, very split on this one, Phil. But I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with Up in the Sky. I know we said we can have draws, but I'm trying to avoid draws. And I think Up in the Sky hasn't got that big full sound of Stand By Me. But it's got, I'm going, there we go. I'm being coherent.
So, Columbia, track 5 on Definitely Maybe, versus I Hope I Think I Know.
Am I going first on this one?
You are.
I think Columbia was originally released as a white label demo. And I know there's been a little bit of controversy around this song because it's got a Noel Gallagher songwriting credit on it, full songwriting credit, but when you listen into certain tracks by the real people who helped them around that time in the studio, etc., there is very much a real people feel to it. And rumours have it, and this is alleged, that Liam wrote one of the verses, I believe, and guy from the real people wrote a lot of the other stuff, and Noel wrote a small pile of it, but he didn't write all of it. And I think in the 10 Years of Noise and Confusion DVD that came out, he does say in there, where you can, I think something along the lines of, you can tell it's written by Scousers because it's there we were, now where there we are, and ain't our kid. And so I'm going to go for I Hope I Think I Know because I actually really like that song. And Columbia is a great track. It is a brilliant track, but the fact is there's that sort of hint of controversy behind it. And
so for not being completely written by Noel Gallagher, you're perhaps marking it down a little bit retrospectively.
Well, then again, a lot of his songs have borrowed from other people. So, but Columbia is a great Columbia. Do you know what it always? Whenever I have Columbia on, it always makes me feel like, do you know, if you're driving down I was going to say freeway, but motorway, and it's dark, just going dusk, and you got the light, the glare of the lights on the road. It just you could be driving alone and have Columbia on, and it's like, oh, this is amazing.
So you're going for I Hope I Think I Know.
I don't know. Can I come back to it? Can you go for yours, and then I'll come back? I think I know if I ever even hear.
I think I'm going to go with Columbia because I Hope I Think I Know, perfectly good rock song. But Columbia is kind of groovy, and it does have this vibe to it. They used to open concerts with it at one point.
Yeah, they did. Correctly. Yeah,
and it's just got this sort of vibe of this is Oasis. Here we are, and it fits in with the Liam Gallagher swagger kind of well. And I just feel like maybe it's because I've probably heard it more, and because it was on the first album.
Yeah,
and
we were.
So I'm just, and Columbia has a higher status as a Oasis track than I Hope I Think I Know. Generally, I think anyway. So I'm not going against the grain with that, but I think I'm going with Columbia.
No, I suppose I Hope I Think I Know could quite easily have been a B-side on Morning Glory, something along that. I do like Columbia. And I'm singing it in my head. You can probably.
So how much do you like I Hope I Think I Know? Do you like it more then?
I like it because it's upbeat, but now I've sort of harked back to my feelings of Columbia driving down the road, and you know,
this is peculiar. We don't want to fool you, but I do want to get your verdict.
Columbia. I'm going for it. That's hard, but I'm going Columbia. It shouldn't be hard because Columbia is a great track, and it was something different on that album as well. It sort of broke the album up a little bit, I think. Columbia. So I'm going Columbia.
Okay, so it's time for track 6, which I think on the vinyl version of Definitely Maybe is the start of side 2, if I
I think you're right, yeah.
And who knows where it is on the incredibly long B here now, but track 6 is Supersonic versus The Girl in the Dirty Shirt.
Oh, Girl in a Dirty Shirt, very underrated song. I think I think Girl in a Dirty Shirt was the door opening to what came on Dig Out Your Soul.
Okay, I do think it's
first, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I do think that the Girl in the Dirty. I agree with you that it is underrated, and I think it's a good.
I think it's very underrated. Yeah,
a good tune. It does go on. It goes on for him about a minute longer than it needs to, but I think it does. But I think it is very good. It could have been a hit. I thought it's one of those songs that I think if it had been released around the time of What's the Story, Morning Glory as a single, it would have been. People would have been dancing to it in the nightclubs and drunkenly singing it along with it and whatever. But it wasn't. It came out on Be Here Now, so it got ignored. Supersonic, well, we all know, I mean, this is obviously a bona fide...
Written in 20 minutes?
Yeah, this is a bona fide Oasis classic. This is some of the best Noel Gallagher lyric writing, which I think were actually written by Noel Gallagher, and that's obviously I'm feeling.
I know a girl
Supersonic.
called Elsa. She's into Alka-Seltzer.
Yeah, that's another one. I was thinking of I'm feeling supersonic, give me gin and tonic, which kind of sums up the whole. That was another great way for Oasis to announce themselves.
Do you know who Elsa was?
A girl who sold the Big Issue.
No, she was a Rottweiler, a German Shepherd in the studio that had a flatulence problem.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, there's loads of kind of throwaway lyrics in it. It just works, doesn't it? And the video was cool. Liam just looked so cool in that video with that John Motson donkey jacket on.
Well, I have to say, kudos to Girl in the Dirty Shirt for being a very good album track. But I have to say that Supersonic is a classic Oasis single. It doesn't really have anything wrong with it that I could criticise, whereas Girl in the Dirty Shirt, I still think it's slightly too long without anything interesting musically at the end. So for me, Supersonic has to win that one.
Yeah, for me, Supersonic as well. I think it's a staple. I think the opening track, to come out and have that as your opening track, but to have Supersonic as your opening single, because I think originally it was going to be Bring It On Down, and then Noel wrote this Supersonic in 20 minutes. It's just brilliant. The screechy guitar, the video. Yeah, Supersonic every day. Get it in there, Phil.
Well, talking of Bring It On Down, that is next. Ooh. Bring It On Down versus Fade In. I knew it was going to be that. And it's not unfit. Oh, yeah. Fading Out. Oasis's attempt at Bon Jovi. I tend to think of it. I suppose it. There's a little bit of Rolling Stones in that as well, though, isn't there?
Yeah. Well,
there's a bit of sort of Let It Bleed, Rolling Stones era in there, I think, but also maybe, as you see, I suppose there's some similarity with the Bon Jovi one about the Steel Horse.
Steel Horse I Ride.
Yeah, what's it called? Dead or Alive, or Wanted, Dead or Alive?
I'm wanted, dead or alive.
Is that kind of thing? Is that what he was being influenced by?
That kind of American, I don't know. I can't imagine him being a massive
American
bon
rock. RAWK, that kind of thing. Well,
Bring It On Down for me was always the track on that album which I never really got into. It was not one of my favourites on that album. Fading Out is possibly one of my favourite tracks on Be Here Now. So, because Liam's vocal, and he does that primal scream bit. I know it's probably done through an effect, but that bit where he goes, it's fading out for me, Phil. I love Bring It On Down, but I just think Fading Out is get on the roller coaster, fair's in town today.
Okay, so I'm
singing today.
This for me is one of the hardest because you say that Bring It On Down wasn't one of your favourites on the album, but for me, Bring It On Down was always a standout for me.
Was it? Well, it was going to be the first single.
Yeah, I've always really liked it, and I really like the vibe and the attitude of it, and just the whole.
And it motors, doesn't it?
It motors along the pace of it. I really, really like it, and I've listened to it a lot.
Don't confuse me now. Don't.
I could.
Tony's drumming on it is brilliant as well.
I could put it on right now. Yeah, I could enjoy it right now. Now, Fading Out, I do really like, and I have listened to that track a lot as well. And I do think in some ways it is one of the best on Be Here Now, although I'd probably get fed up with it quicker than I would get fed up with Bring It On Down.
Oh.
So I'm feeling that I would have to give this, although it's a really strong matchup, I'm leaning towards Bring It On Down. So that is going to be a draw. I'm going to give it to Bring It On Down, and that's going to be a draw.
Fading Out. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not changing my mind, even though I am now singing Bring It On Down in my head and realise that it's a stomper, isn't it? It's a thumper.
This is another difficult one on here, especially as these two songs are quite different. So we're on track 8. So it's Cigarettes and Alcohol versus, do you remember what's number 8 on Be Here Now?
Don't Go Away?
Yep, indeed. I won't go away, Ben. I'll wait for you to give us your verdict.
Don't go away. Cigarettes and Alcohol. Don't go. Oh, God, that's a really hard one, because Cigarettes and Alcohol it's amazing. And the fact they managed to get it past Radio 1, who weren't going to play the track because of I think there's a line that says you might as well do the white line. Yet they managed to convince Radio 1 that they sang the line, you might as well do the white lime, and it was about fruit. So, and I love the fact that it blatantly borrows from T-Rex. It's got that sort of hiss of the amp and that coming on at the start of it, and that, you know, that opening bit to Cigarettes and Alcohol is, as soon as you hear that, you know what track is coming.
Well, the riff is Get It On, isn't it? T-Rex.
Yeah, T-Rex, yeah. And,
very slightly adapted, but it's more or less the same.
Yeah, and Noel Gallagher said, if you're going to borrow off of anybody, make sure they're dead. So I suppose that was one box ticked. It is a great track, Cigarettes and Alcohol. It's a classic. It's an absolute... And Don't Go Away was about Peggy Gallagher, because I think she'd been ill. And it wasn't released there. I think it was released in Japan. It has got a video for it where Liam sat in a big window. I think it's Cigarettes and Alcohol for me, Phil. I think. And I do love Don't Go Away as well. I think I've got it on Japanese import CD. But like I said, they're two totally different tracks. So it's hard to sort of... You know, you're not comparing them on musical genre. Again,
this is difficult, and I do agree that Cigarettes and Alcohol is one of the great Oasis rock songs and one of their great anthems. And if I can
make one more point, they both borrow, because there is a song by the Real People, and I think I sent it to you, that Don't Go Away, that say that you stay forever and a day, that bit there in the chorus, or the bridge, or whatever it is they call it, is uplifted from a Real People song, and there's no getting away from that. So they both borrow, so they're both on equal standing on that part there.
Again, I find that it's very, very difficult, because I do think in many ways, particularly in its mood and the performance, I do think Don't Go Away is one of the best Oasis ballad type songs.
Yeah, it is.
So it's really, you know, it would beat a lot of tracks in one of these sort of putting them against each other. But then Cigarettes and Alcohol is such a key song in that early period, and is still, you know, works so well in concert and gets everybody going. Which do I like the most?
I'm quite swaying back towards Don't Go Away. I'm going to see what you come up with.
I feel almost that because you've gone for one, I almost feel as if I ought to go for the other. And I think it's fair for them to have a draw. So I feel slightly, I'm going to go with Don't Go Away.
Well, if it makes it really better, I'm going to go for Don't Go Away as well. Because it is that close. And I do love Don't Go Away. And I think Be Here Now needs a little bit more love and appreciation. So... yeah, don't send me letters complaining.
It's just for fun. This might be easier.
Go on.
But then it might not be. Diggs's Dinner versus Be Here Now, the title track.
I love Diggs's Dinner, but Be Here Now. Is that the one that go? I should know all this anyway. Wash your face in the morning sun. I love that song. Yeah, and I love Diggs's Dinner because it's just simple. Mentions lasagna.
Doesn't the song Be Here Now mention Diggs's in it as well?
Yeah, reminds me of Diggs's. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So they're
both linked.
So what is Diggs's? What is Diggsy?
Diggsy was I think he was either a friend of the Real People or he was a friend of Noel's from somewhere. He was always he's recorded stuff, I believe, Diggsy, but I think he was a mad scouser. And have you ever seen the interviews with him? I'm sure he's from Liverpool. He is pretty mad. So he is an actual bloke. But yeah, I do like Be Here Now as a title track. I remember when they did that remember they did a documentary for BBC where they did Stand By Me acoustically by the pool. And then the other live version they did was Be Here Now. And I remember when Liam had the John Lennon cap on. Oh, yeah. It's Be Here Now for me, Phil. And I do love Diggs's Dinner.
I like Diggs's Dinner. I do see it, though, as a fun filler. More than a really great Oasis track. It's good. And it's fun, as I say. But I do think Be Here Now is actually quite a little bit underrated. And it is a great Oasis rock song. And I like the guitar stuff on. So I'm going with Be Here Now as well. So we sorted that one out pretty quickly. Ooh. Okay. It's time for Battle of the Track 10s. Now, just before we get to the end, just a little a note here. The Definitely Maybe album in its original incarnation has 11 tracks on it. There are 12 tracks on the Be Here Now album, but the last one is a reprise of this next song we're going to discuss. Yes. So we're not going to count that as a track. We're just going to talk about the first 11 tracks on the album. So, track 10... on Be Here Now is All Around the World, and that comes up against Slide Away.
There's only one winner, Phil.
This is the one that if I had to put money on which one you would go for, I would have confidently predicted your verdict on this because I know what you think of these songs. So I don't think you'd have to talk for very long, really.
Well, my trouble with All Around the World, the video is rubbish. It's absolutely awful. The suits are awful that they're wearing it. It's far too long. The original version, because I think it was originally written around 92, but they couldn't. He wanted to record it with an orchestra. It's All Around the World sums up Be Here Now. What everybody hated about Be Here Now is summed up in All Around the World, and I'd love to hear that song naked. Not me naked, because nobody needs to see that. But Slide Away, vocally, musically, lyrically, the structure of it, it's possibly one of Liam's best. It's possibly my favourite track on. Definitely Maybe, and possibly one of my favourite Oasis songs of all time. If not one of my favourite songs of all time.
Yeah,
I think everything about it is A+++++.
I can't argue that Slide Away is absolutely top-notch Oasis and one of the defining tracks in their catalogue and one of Noel Gallagher's greatest achievements and Liam's. So I would have to go with that. I just wanted to ask you, All Around the World, it's interesting that it was written a long time before and he didn't record it because he couldn't do it in the arrangement he wanted. That reminds me actually of Guns N' Roses, because Axl Rose had that. Remember the big ballad November Rain? I'm sure you've heard that, which I think has had its video viewed more times than any other video or something on it had some ridiculous.
Baby Shark is the most viewed video on YouTube.
But November Rain was written, I believe, around in the early days of Guns N' Roses. I don't know why we're going into Guns N' Roses here, but he's a massive Elton John fan, and he wrote this ballad. It's a sort of a bit of an Elton John type ballad, and then he wanted to record it with a big arrangement, and then that's why it took years to do. But All Around the World, were they trying to do a kind of a Hey Jude with this.
I think that's probably what they were aiming for.
With the na-na-na-na kind of refrain.
Yeah,
they wanted to make a sing-along, basically.
Well, the video is basically a Yellow Submarine rip-off. They're in the white suits. They look like Liverpool did in the 96 FA Cup final. Look, it's just awful. If you look at some of the early footage of Oasis when they were rehearsing in the boardwalk, and they've got like the Union Jack swirling down the toilet post behind them, the track they're always playing on a lot of those videos is All Around the World. And I can imagine, stripped back, it almost sounds to me, would be here now, that Noel Gallagher was going, yeah, we know, but you're still going to buy it. And that's the kind of feeling I get. And I think through all the waifs and strays of it, I think there's a really good track under there. I just think in its current guise, whenever it comes on, I get in. I'm like, all round the world. But after the 18th verse of all round the world, I'm kind of like, oh, God, just not now.
I see what you mean. I must admit, it's a long time since I've listened to the whole thing. I must put it on afterwards. But anyway, but I do agree that there's an aspect of contrivance with All Around the World, and it doesn't feel like it's just inspired. It sounds as if it was worked on too much and trying maybe a bit too hard to be something that ultimately it wasn't. Whereas Slide Away, I mean, there's no need to discuss it. Slide Away wins hands down. So there we are. Okay.
Awesome track.
So track 11, these are two very different songs. So on Definitely Maybe, Married with Children, the song in which someone's music is not very good and keeps someone else up all night.
All night, yeah.
And It's Getting Better, Man.
Oh, see, this is very difficult because they're very different songs, aren't they? I think Married with Children is written about, is it one of Noel's ex-girlfriends or something? Didn't like his music. I love It's Getting Better, Man. It's getting better, man. Hey, what was that you said to me? I love it.
Oh, yeah. Even with you singing it, I remember that bit is a good bit of the song. Well, not saying, let me just... You singing it is not good. You singing it just reminded me of the good bit on the record.
Oh, right. Yeah. If I wanted a song that made me go, right, here we go, world, you're going to get it today, It's Getting Better, Man would be the one that went on. If I wanted a song that was sort of, like, just have a nice little sing-along to, little, like, the two different songs, that's the trouble. It's very hard to compare, but it's, oh, God. I wish there was one I could...
Does It's Getting Better, Man go on a little bit too long?
Yeah, but I like that in that. Whereas with
but it gets away with it.
The world, All Around the World, you're just like, oh God, you're too overblown. But It's Getting Better, Man. It's just the right enough of it's going on too long, and I like that about it. I like the fact that it goes on a little bit too long. Do love Married with Children.
So which one are you taking to the desert island? Or are you so
It's Getting Better, Man. If I was going to a desert island, I'd want to, if I was having to eat like dead rat and a hamster and 14 bananas a day, I'd be like, oh God, I hate bananas. I'd be like, oh, It's Getting Better, Man. And then I'll be like, yeah, let's have it. Let's have some more bananas. So,
I can see that. I can see that maybe you'd want to enjoy it more often, and I get that. I do think that Married with Children is a great, great ending to the album.
Yeah, and I love Married with Children.
I mean, I like the way he sings it, and I like my favourite, and I do like the line, "Your music's shite, it keeps me up all night."
Yeah, I think it's one of Liam's best vocals because he's almost like he's got no filters on, nothing. It's just a beautiful vocal on it. But
it's really,
I'm not
it's
taking
really
it to a desert island.
It's a difficult one because I've heard Married with Children, I think, more times than It's Getting Better, Man, and it's the one that stands out immediately to me. You know, It's Getting Better, Man is only going to win it for me if I have to really think it through and think, because I'm defaulting towards Married with Children. But Having said that,
it's getting better, man.
Having said that, I probably wouldn't want to listen to it as many times. It's getting better, man. I can see the whole rock out thing. I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to agree with you on this, and I'm going to go for It's Getting Better, man. Because I like rock and roll.
Split though, is it? It's not a bad split of the albums we've had.
No. So, do you want to know what the scores are?
Go on then. I think there's only one winner in this, but I think it's closer than what we thought it was going to be.
Okay. So, which album do you think has won?
I will go with. I'm going to say Part Life.
Shall I tell you that there was one draw on this. Oh, hold on.
What was the draw one again? Because we're going to have to split it, aren't we? Somehow. Who was the draw?
The drawn track was number 7. Okay. And the winning scores, so there was one draw, which means there were 10 that were decided. The winning score is 6-4.
That's not a massively wide margin, is it?
And it is. The winner is definitely maybe, and
it is definitely maybe. Yeah. What was track 7 again?
Is that George Best?
There's George Best on. Was it Rodney Marsh?
I don't know. There's a football. There's Burt Bacharach.
There's Burt Bacharach. Yeah.
Okay. So it's won, but it hasn't won by quite as much as you might have thought. Although there's a few of those that could have gone either way.
Yeah.
And we were being.
You know what we should do?
We were being a little bit generous to Be Here now in some ways, but I think we were trying to give Be Here now a fair hearing, and I think we leaned a little bit towards it. Whereas, I don't. We're
going to get punched in the face in public for some of these.
Yeah, I think we at least we did come to, I think, the correct decision. That
Overall, I think what we should do, so people know where we stand with these albums, or see if they agree, is we should put a link down below somewhere. If we can put on a streaming service, we'll create 2 separate albums. The album that won, called it Definitely Now, and then create the losing album called Maybe Be Here, and people can make their own minds up and see which one is the better album. What do you reckon?
That's a wonderful idea, Ben. So there we are. That's our verdict is that Definitely Maybe has topped Be Here Now in our shootout of the Oasis albums. Thanks for watching. Well done if you made it all the way through to the end. If you really have made it through to the end, then you must have liked this. So please click like and
subscribe.
And give us a share. Thanks for watching.
Be good.